Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Hurricanes versus the Crusaders. And these New Zealand derbies never fail to entertain. In the end, the Hurricanes saw the Crusaders off 29-19. It looked like it was going to be much more comfortable at one point, but the Crusaders came back into it, and we ended up playing well past the clock until, of all the players to drop the ball, Beauden Barrett. I mean, come on, he's World Player of the Year, and he can't hold on to the ball. Anyway, sorry, joining me this evening, because I've already gone straight into the chat without actually introducing anybody. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, a YouTube channel, a podcast, a website, and a Twitter account, bringing you the best in rugby predictions and opinion. And bringing his opinions from Auckland in what we've got to say is a lovely vintage jersey. We have Ashwin. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Been a pretty full-on day, so it was great to sit down, relax, and watch the Hurricanes Crusaders game. It's been a good game.
It has been a good game. And what is that, circa 2009 maybe? I'm trying to think how far back that was.
Yeah, maybe not quite far as back as that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, something around there, though. Not too far off it.
And joining us for the first time, we have our new friend Herman from Phuket. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. I'm staying in Chiang Mai now, by the way.
Chiang Mai, sorry. I got mixed up. Dear me, it's all Thailand. Hey.
Where you used to live? You told me.
Oh, dearie me. So already we have Joshua and Floyd and Pink on the live chat. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Suspect pass from Judd didn't help. You're quite right. Barrett was picking it up from round by his shoelaces. So the Crusaders, their only loss last year was to the Hurricanes in Wellington on their way to victory in Super Rugby. And apparently the last time the Crusaders have won in the capital was 2012. That's some run.
But wasn't the final? Oh, hang on. The Crusaders haven't played the Hurricanes in a final in Wellington, have they?
No. That was against the Lions. Was the Hurricanes win?
Right. Wow. Then that's going back a while. But they're starting to become the theme of it, isn't it? In fact, is that it's very difficult to win your games away. Even
Very true.
Champion sides.
And yeah, that was one of the things that was mentioned early on from the commentators, was that your home games are going to be against, especially in the New Zealand Conference, your home games against your conference partners is going to be vitally important in this competition. And the Hurricanes suddenly turned it on when we all thought they'd be tired from their travel.
Yeah, but we're actually like a factor that's often overlooked. When you're coming from Argentina to New Zealand, there is actually a direct flight from Buenos Aires to Auckland, and you travel for the night and you travel westbound. So I'm not trying to say it's not hard, but it's probably the most easiest travel of all the big travels you have to do in Super Rugby.
And I'm sure they all get first class laying down beds. So in fact, some of them, for the younger boys, they might find their beds are actually more comfortable than the ones they have at home, who can't actually afford a decent bed.
You're spot on, Paul. It's actually Air New Zealand who do the line between Buenos Aires and Auckland.
What's these lay down beds you guys talk about? What's that about? I don't know. I'm just sort of squashed up like this with the seat in front of me in a plane.
You never flight first class, Aidan?
Nah.
This is Ashwin. He's using his son's account because he can't remember his own password.
I can't remember my password for my Google account.
I gotta call you A from now on. A.
Yeah, that'll be safe.
So anyway, the Canes came out of the blocks absolutely blazing and got themselves an early try. Messy line out. They got a bit lucky really, because the line didn't go to plan. Eves picked the ball and just nipped through and scored. And that was it was all Hurricanes early doors.
Yeah, I don't agree with the commentators on Sky. I don't know if the international viewers, listeners get our Sky commentators, but sort of saying that Eves might have knocked it on. It looked like a Crusaders knock on to me into Eves. Eve gathers the ball and crashes over the line. It was a Hurricanes line out gone wrong, but it worked out in the end.
It absolutely did, and the Crusaders at that point was giving up early penalties, allowing the Hurricanes to have field position and just to go through the moves. and get them the and get their points. I'm just going to try and up some volumes because apparently Dusty Pink is a bit too quiet. There we go. So and they'll say they were going through their motions. Crusaders just couldn't get their hands on the ball, and gave another penalty. I was a bit surprised actually to see Geordie Barrett actually step up and try and take one. I mean, is this a new philosophy, do you think, from the Hurricanes to actually take kicks at goal?
I guess against Crusaders, you're going to take all points that's on offer, but against other teams, not so sure the Hurricanes will go for it. But Crusaders are, if there's any point on offer against Crusaders, you better take them.
Yeah, I think you've got a good point there, and the fact that they'd received a few penalties, they'd kicked into the corners, they'd spent a bit of time on the back of penalties down inside the 22. They hadn't come away with any points, so and the fact that it was sort of centre field, although it was a long way out, I thought it was not a bad option to go for 3.
But also, I thought like the first time we tried it, they were 14-0 up, so obviously we're going to make it like a free-scoring game.
Yep.
And the second time we took it, we were 7 points up. So just to get to force Crusaders scored two scores. It's smart.
No, sorry to correct you, but the Bible of Notes here says that the first kick was when they were 7-0 up. After 10 minutes, he missed it.
I was on. But probably same school of thought.
Yeah. So they were only 7-0 up at that time. They got the ball back pretty soon. Were bashing away at the line, and then a lovely little line by Geordie Barrett. Oh, sorry, no, they weren't bashing away. Sorry, this was one they're further out. Lovely line by Geordie Barrett. Throws a wild inside pass, no look inside pass to whoever may be there. And luckily for him, TJ Perenara pops up and just pops over.
TJ, who doesn't realise that that's Fat Man's alley, and he's not supposed to be there, but he is. But sorry, go Herman.
TJ sure got a nose for how to score a try. What did we sell on TV? Number 45 Super Rugby for him.
Yeah, it's in the high 40s.
Yep, no, he's in 40. That was his 45th try. He's very much, as you say, it's he has a nose for the try line. He always tries to follow the breaks as best he can and pick up those loose balls, which is why they can throw those passes, because they know, because they were trying it over the last 2 weeks and the players just weren't there. Today, when they were throwing them, the support players were there. This wasn't the only one that was done. Later on in the game, we saw a prop of all people make a break. He obviously knew he wasn't going to make it. Gets tackled, but as he gets tackled, throws the ball out the back of the hand in the same way that Geordie Barrett did, but not quite to the same result as Laumapi. Kicked the ball, and he made the Crusaders carry the ball over the line and get the 22. But you can see that's definitely, even though the fact they haven't been able to handle in the first 2 games, hasn't stopped the style of play. And today, it all clicked, and or it clicked much better in the first half at least, which it hasn't done in the first 2 weeks.
Agreed.
The Crusaders then did get to have some possession, and they were looking okay, but their execution tonight wasn't there. They were getting read too easily, and a lovely Crockett's Crockett loose pass. Sorry, no, this isn't the interception. So the interception's further down. The Crockett pass went loose. TJ finds Barrett, who runs a lovely line, draws the defender, gives it to Ben Lamb, and boy, that boy's quick.
Yeah. All Aucklanders are, mate. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, he's a sevens rep. So we expected to see that pace. You hear again the Sky commentators, one Jay Marshall. Oh, I didn't know he had that much pace. It's like he's been playing sevens for how many years? I mean, I don't know. You are a rugby commentator. Have you not been watching or something? But I knew he had the pace. I was expecting him to take the outside and have a go, and he did.
I was impressed because 2 seasons ago he was with the Blues, wasn't he? From memory,
he was. He's always been a so he's been on the bench sort of, and maybe the occasional start sort of thing. Then he went away into the sevens, and was making a good. I thought basically he was become a sevens player, and then he pops up down at the Lions, Wellington Lions for NPC, and then selected into the Hurricane squad. I think the old Lions selection was all Hurricanes package type thing.
Oh, very possible. Yeah, very absolutely. Because I wasn't that impressed by Ben Lamb up in Auckland. I didn't think he had I saw him more as a bashing, or he was used more as a bashing winger than a speedster winger, which is why I was surprised by his pace, because he was normally used more for his power than for his pace. And so to me, that was a bit of that's not what I associate with him from his time at the Blues. Yeah, and that might just be bad coaching at the Blues.
Yeah, so wasn't that try like the perfect opportunity for a seventh player? Like lots of ground and only one guy to beat. Like, it looked like a seventh score actually from that.
Good, yeah, absolutely agreed on that one. Actually, good, yeah, nice description. I think, yeah. The fact is that you've got basically it's sort of like you've got the players coming back, and all you're trying to do is just use your pace to just burn them off. Just you're right. Just like Seven's backfield.
Yeah, he must be very comfortable from that position.
Now, I'll say my new favourite person in the world is Floyd in Pink, because Floyd in Pink has figured out about the super chat. So if you click on super chat, folks, and you spend some money, it highlights your question, and we will talk about it. So Floyd in Pink, thank you very much for the $5. Boys, what are your thoughts on Jack Goodhue? Floyd says, I think he's earned a look in for an All Black spot, solid all-rounder.
Oh, I think he's been on the end of your tour, or did he get injured? But he would have gone if he hadn't have been. Memories for hazy because I'm getting old. But look, for me, the Crusaders were the forward pack and Jack Goodhue tonight. That was it. So in terms of for Floyd and Pink, absolutely. He's when we talk about our midfield going forward, looking at a Bowden Barrett, a Goodhue, a Rico, it's looking big, strong, and very sort of skillful in that sort of centres and type position. And absolutely agree. He's looking at an All Black jersey.
Yeah, I agree too. But the All Black midfield at the moment is very hard to predict and pick it, like coming up for the World Cup. There are so many boys who like raising their arms, and they still haven't like really let one combination like play one combination over and over again. So it's still very, very much up in the air, I think, the All Black midfield. I mean, probably Sonny Bill has Steve like him, you like him a lot.
Look, I mean, Jack Goodhue's been in the. I know as I said, I can't remember if he went on the end of the year tour, but he's definitely been in the All Black squads. When in the Tri Nations, etc. He was brought in when they had some injury concerns, etc. So he's definitely in the mix. As you say, there's a bit of a logjam starting to occur, which is fantastic because. If Sonny Bill does make it to the next World Cup, he'll probably retire shortly after that or go do another boxing match or something after that. So the opportunities for Jack aren't far away, and it's looking pretty exciting for that midfield.
It is, but if we run through the people we're talking about here, we're talking about Sonny Bill Williams, Crotty, Lau Mape, who have all been in there. Anton Leonard-Brown is the other person, and then
Leonard-Brown, yeah.
Now, those first three I've mentioned are all 12s, essentially. Sure, Crotty can play 13, but they're all 12s. Anton Leonard-Brown is more of a 13, but I think after his breakthrough season, there's been a bit. He needs a good season this season. Last season, he was a bit quieter. And Jack Goodhue is naturally, I think, more a 13 than a 12. And that's what I think the All Blacks are missing. I think they're missing a 13. They've got plenty of 12s, but they don't seem to have many 13s coming through at the moment. So, yes, absolutely. I think All Blacks jerseys are going to come his way. I mean, the point I made here, we lost Ryan Crotty early in the piece, so he had to reshuffle the back line, and Goodhue had to step in. Missing, I've gone blank, Moanga.
Yep.
And having Hunt in there, Crotty was supposed to be the stabilising, responsible player there.
Glue in the midfield, glue in the back line.
In the back line. With Crotty lost, Goodhue stepped up. And I thought, my notes down here, Goodhue playing well in place of Crotty, taking responsibility. And that's what I saw him doing, was going, right, we've broken down here. Someone needs to grab this ball and take it forwards. And he did that. I mean, he ran 7 times. He only passed it 3 times. So he didn't really use Tamani Valu outside him. much. I mean, perhaps I would have liked to have seen him do a bit more of that, but I think the Hurricanes' rush defence didn't really allow him to do that.
I was just going to say that rush defence, I think, was basically shutting down the outsides, and so Jack Goodhue was actually he was finding gaps and holes. He's got this sort of weird jinking sort of at the line where he seems to be able to go backwards and then find a gap and go forward sort of thing, and make an extra sort of that 2-3 meters that gets the Crusaders going forward. So yeah, I think he actually filled in at 12 really well and gave them go forward.
Absolutely, it's also a player that I would that I associate with pace and with jinkiness rather than with power. But he was pretty powerful tonight. And at 35 meters run, he was the second highest ball carrier for the Crusaders this evening. So yeah, great player.
If I may add about Goodhue, what's going to help him, of course, is like most of the real rivals of the fullbacks are playing rush defense, so that he's showing. If he can show night after night that he's good against rush defense, that's definitely going to help him in the all-back picture.
Yep,
absolutely. And the other player that was playing well, I think we'll go on to this now, is Mattielli. I mean, when we saw I've gone blank again. Dear me, names. This doesn't help. When we saw Quaddy going off, I thought that would be that Mattielli coming on, being a winger, not such a well-known name, but having a really good season this season. He was the collected a kick. A couple of phases later, Taylor makes a break down the line, gives it to Mattielli. Still plenty of work to do, and he carries about 4 players over the line and scores. I thought he was having a good game in the first half.
It was a really strange period that one in terms of period of play with that try, because the Hurricanes actually fell off. The defensive line in that passage was really poor. It was really strange because they've been coming up, they've been making the tackles, and all of a sudden miss a couple of tackles, and it just shows with those Crusaders, you miss a tackle and they will hurt you, and that's what happened exactly. Cody Taylor breaks, I think it was Chris Eves' tackle, and then somebody makes a despairing dive at him, passes off to Mattielli, and he goes basically through about 4 players, Bowden Barrett being one of them.
Yep. Actually, Professor Procrastinator, if you pay attention to substitute games, he's become the same type of player as Crotty is. I think he's talking about Goodhue there. But yeah, no, Mattielli, I thought had a good game, and you say they missed a couple of tackles there, and one of the themes that's been that I've been noticing amongst a lot of these games has been how few tackles have been, how many tackles have been missed.
Yeah.
But tonight the Hurricanes made 69 out of 81, so it's 85% of their tackles. That's a decent ratio.
Yep.
The Crusaders not quite so good at 78, but still, we've been seeing a lot of games where we've seen low 70s, and some teams even as low into the 60s this season, which has been appalling. Tonight, that wasn't such an issue. The tackling was actually pretty. The defenses were pretty good. Were very good tonight.
Yeah, but don't you reckon that this missed tackle stats that are going up could be correlated to that much more team playing rush defense?
There's an element of that. There's an element of that, but I understand this idea that if you rush up and you get a hit on but miss the tackle, you slow down and break down the play. But still, if 4 out of every 10 of your tackles is one of those, you're in trouble. And
it depends on the caliber of the opposition you play. I mean, hard for me to talk about, but you go back a week, and it's that the Chiefs, as we talked about, missed a massive amount of tackles against the Blues, but it didn't hurt them because the Blues couldn't take advantage of it. If the Hurricanes tonight had a 70% tackle ratio, the Crusaders would have hurt them. So you got to be careful about if your tackle ratio is down and who it's against.
Yeah, but I saw an interesting stat about Crusaders from the first 2 games. They missed like 73 tackles, and still they blow both opponents off the park. I'm still thinking we're searching for the true answer here. What's
yeah.
Well, you could add another 19 tackles to that tonight, but definitely, yeah. Their tackling definitely improved tonight on that, which is. So after that Mattielli tackle, the Crusaders couldn't clear the restart, got charged down, and an easy try, a very soft try to the Canes, which basically killed the game off really at that point. Being 21 points behind, really was that was game over, wasn't it?
Yes, I agree. I mean, I was very curious to see this because in both of the first games against the Chiefs were really good. We got like pretty soft leads there. They got like soft tries for free almost, and got a big lead and can play on that lead for the rest of the game. I wonder how we're going to react if someone put the same kind of lead on them, which happened today. But fair play to them. They were pretty close coming back. But as you say, Paul, it was always going to be a stretch to catch up 21 points against a really good Hurricanes team.
Look, in that try, I mean, it'll sort of a point I wanted to make before when we're talking about Jack Goodhue as well, in terms of the fact that Jack Goodhue comes on and moves into 12. He plays a good game himself, but what was missing with Crotty not being there was the calming influence on Mitch Hunt. You know, and that sort of like, you know, someone in Mitch Hunt's ear, an experienced voice in Mitch Hunt's ear, to sort of calm him, to get him doing the right things, to get him into the right part of the field. And I think that's, you know, and you got a Bryn Hall who, I mean, you know, he's a good halfback. Don't get me wrong, but you know, when you've lost that glue on Crotty, it's like, yeah, that. I think that impacted on the Crusaders more than what really sort of like showed up in the game.
Yeah, and also losing Whitelock as well. You're losing your forward leader and your backs leader within the space of about 5 minutes. Really did disrupt the Crusaders. It took them a while to get over that, I think.
Because the back line and the forward pack both made non-Crusader-like errors once they lost Crotty and Whitelock. And you sort of feel that those two there, and they don't make those sorts of errors.
Possibly not. With having that, having that leadership there to marry it all together. But as we said, they did come back. They got the line out maul try just before half time, and that probably should have given us a heads up as to what was going to happen for most of the second half. Really, I mean, they actually nailed that one. Both sides had failed to do that up until that point. Yeah,
look, I mean, it became pretty obvious. As I said, to me, that game became the Crusaders forward pack and Jack Goodhue. And, you know, the silly thing from my mind was that the Hurricanes should have, obviously the coaches had worked it out and the players should have realized. And so they should have been really cautious about not giving away penalties, because that was the only thing that was going to keep the Crusaders in the game, or give them the chance, was to give them the penalties. They kick into the corners and they get the driving mauls going. Don't give away the penalties; they weren't going anywhere.
They were, and the reason I backed the Hurricanes prior to this game, and I only backed them by 3 points, not by the 10, was their defence against Jaguares. They shut the Jaguares out, and I thought that their defence would be strong again today, and it was strong again tonight. And as you say, the Crusaders really weren't breaking the line too often. We got 5 clean breaks, but to me, that's most of those had someone who covered and closed it down afterwards. It was very rare they got a clean break and then were able to continue through and finish it off. So to me, that was that's what we saw tonight. As you say, they got that line-up maul going well just before half time. It was a long way out as well. But some of the halftime stats: meters made 321 for the Hurricanes, 172 for the Crusaders. Runs made 59 for the Hurricanes, 42 for the Crusaders. So they made less runs, but they didn't make half as many runs, but they made half as many meters. So they were definitely, Crusaders weren't being that effective on attack tonight.
No, I think as we've alluded to, they basically had it one-dimensional in their attack, really.
But isn't Hurricanes defense generally a bit underrated? Like we have so much rest among their backs, we tend to not really appreciate how good their pack is actually.
No, you're right. And that's what really won them the championship a couple of seasons ago, was that they were was their defense had stepped up. They've always had quality backs, and that back line is is fantastic. And on attack, we've always had players like Corey Jane and Nonu and stuff who can break the line, can score points. But it's when they tightened up their defence that suddenly they became a
championship team.
Yeah.
A chocolate chip team.
It's getting late. A chocolate chip team. And on that stuff. And as you're saying, I don't reply to our comments. I'm sorry, I'm talking to two people on the screen, and I've got comments and zooming past. There's only so much I can actually pay attention to. So no, I'm sorry, I don't pick up on every single comment. But as Floyd says, super chat comments I will definitely pick up on. So as we say, that's what happened. The second half really just became very bitty. We had neither side got into any kind of flow of play. A lot of the play, a lot of penalties in that second half. It just seemed to be penalty kick. Hopefully you win your line out. But the Crusaders uncharacteristically lost 3 line-outs tonight, and they gave up. The Hurricanes had 12 scrums, which shows you that the Crusaders just couldn't hold on to the ball tonight. They were just doing far too many knock-ons, and if you can't win your set piece and you're knocking the ball on, you're basically trying to swim against the tide.
I think when you look at the smorgasbord of rugby that we've had to enjoy, and you can include the South African Conference within this as well, that second half would sort of like be a real flat half. If it wasn't for the quality of rugby that we've been seeing already this season, that second half probably would have been okay. But in context of all the other rugby that we've been watching already this year, it was like, where's my bowl of ice cream?
Oh dear me! No, it's because the only time we actually did get a try was from the Crusaders, and again they were bashing away forever, ignoring a lovely overlap out wide on the right. And okay, they eventually went and got against the post, but they made such hard work of it, and you just don't expect that from the Crusaders or from any of the New Zealand sides, well, apart from the Blues. Any of the New Zealand sides, really. Let's be honest.
You cut me, Dreep Shrek.
You got to remember, I'm a Blues fan as well.
No, you're right though. I mean, like, yep, go Heman.
No. To me, the second half looked more like they were negating each other, both teams. They were like very, very, very aware where the other team's strength were, and they put a lot of effort into negate each other.
Yeah, absolutely. They basically cancelled each other out in the second half.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, the Hurricanes knew that they had to muscle up in the forwards. They're doing their best, and they did very well, obviously, as Paul's stats with the 85% of tackle rates went. But that's what they saw. They had to muscle up against the Crusaders forward pack, and that's what they did. They forced the Crusaders forward pack into those errors that created the knock-ons that got the Hurricanes the scrums to clear their line, which I didn't think they actually cleared their lines too well, but that's another story.
Yeah, kicking from both sides was particularly poor this evening, I think.
Yeah, as I said before, to the Crusader being a champion side, I mean, if you have a chance to beat them, it would be really stupid to go for wrestle against Crusaders if you have a 10-point lead or 14-point lead. Better try to negate them as much as possible, because this win is going to be huge probably in the ladder at the end of the season.
I think this win is going to be huge for the Hurricanes' confidence as well.
That too.
Because whilst they beat the Hankey Warriors comfortably, there were a lot of balls going to ground. There were a lot of plays that just weren't happening. It all wasn't quite working. Tonight, for the first 26 minutes, it worked. After that, it didn't. Maybe they went into their shell a bit. Maybe they decided they were actually like, we've got the lead now. Let's sit in it and make them play from the other end of the pitch. And I think that's what a lot of the deep kicking was about. Was they didn't put the ball off the park because they know the Crusaders are supposed to have a good line out, and they also know that they've got a good kick chase. So let's kick it deep, make them run, make them score from a long way out, and that's what they try to do in that second half. I think more from the Hurricanes, which is a bit disappointing to see them shut up shop quite so early. For me, the clock start. I mean, we had that. The last score of the game was that penalty from Geordie Barrett. That was on 66 minutes. So there was still a quarter of an hour. I mean, they'd already been playing territory and trying to shut up shop with like a quarter of the game left at least.
They were playing territory. I was really surprised though, because they're playing territory, but their kicks were shallow kicks. You know, the Crusaders really did not look like they were going to break the line, apart from Mattielli. They did not look like they were breaking the line at any stage. I really thought they would have put deeper kicks in and had a better kick chase and gone with a defensive line up further up the field. But yeah, I mean, they were actually I thought the Hurricanes were putting themselves under pressure with those shallow kicks.
Yes, they were putting themselves under undue pressure. Sorry, guys, a quick chat. I'm just going to sort something out in the live chat.
Can I do a question with Mr. A?
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
All right. I mean, one thing I noticed, like, you see Ryan Crotty when he was taken off today, it seems like this is getting to his head mentally too, you know.
Oh, look,
he's fucking devastated.
Hey, no, look, I was actually meaning to make that point way back when we talked about it too. Absolutely, 100% on there. You know, there's a lot of players now that we've seen now that have had continual concussions. That you know, they've got to come to a point where they sort of say, "Ooh, is it worth me risking my future to carry on playing rugby?" Crotty's had a lot of concussion issues now. I think he spent a lot of big chunk of last year out with concussion. I could be wrong on that, but I think he did. So that's a big concern, because that wasn't a little concussion. It wasn't just a small head knock, sort of along the Sam Whitelock lines, which didn't seem, it looked a bit more innocuous. Crotty's was definitely big contact, big concussion, and you could see from that you'd expect him to be out for about 3 weeks. I'd suggest that's with his history as well, because he's got history. So it won't be a case of, oh yeah, he's passed his concussion test. They're going to look at, he may pass his concussion test later on this week, but they're also going to look at, hang on, you've got a history of concussion. We're not going to risk you straight back in. Even though they've got a big game next week against the Highlanders. I nearly said Otago, but against the Highlanders.
Another thing I want to add is from the All Black picture is, I mean, Crotty is probably the best midfielder in New Zealand rugby. But can you like build your team around a guy that is so prone to get injured and get head knocks?
We use the term glass. Basically, he's getting to the point where he's glass. But you're right. It's. I suppose, you know, as an All Blacks selector, you're going to be going, hey, look, we need him there, and you're going to try and as much as you can get him there. But it's starting to become a question of, will he be available and when will he be available?
I think we might see what happens. So Charlie Nartai, for example, has been put to fullback to try and keep him have less of these sort of situations. We might see Crotty played more at 13 rather than 12, so he doesn't have to carry into traffic as much. So
do the hit-ups.
And do the hit-ups. So we might see that kind of that kind of piece there. Naholo in the same category too. I don't think Naholo has had that many concussions.
No, I don't think so.
He has leg injuries because his muscles are too powerful. They just rip themselves off the bone.
But you got that much muscle on a leg. Something's got to go wrong, eh?
So but you're right. But you could have said the same thing about Dan Carter, and they nursed him through, and then he had a great World Cup in 2015, and that was part of the.
I suppose the
operation can come good.
The thing there is that with Carter, it was around his legs. When it comes to your head, it becomes a different ball game a bit, I feel. And the fact is that they're really starting to take it more seriously. Obviously, some teams do more than others, but you're starting to see it being taken a lot more seriously in terms of the long-term effects on a player of concussion.
We are, and I think World Rugby has gone and missed a big trick. So they brought in the new rules at the beginning of last year around head-high tackles, and we've seen that. But that defends, or that protects. Sorry, that protects the ball carrier,
the attacker. Yep,
the attacker. What we're seeing is, and what their research showed, was that somewhere between 60 and 70% of concussions happen to the tackler, and it's
knees.
And it's happened again today. We've had both Crotty and Whitelock have gone off. Have been
defenders.
The tacklers have been defending at the time. So whilst you can't judge too much from one game and just two head knocks, you can see the stats are saying we need to look after the defending player more, and I don't know how they're going to do that. And I think that that's where we need to be looking at, is how do we protect the tackling player, because that's the person that's getting injured at the moment. Things like leading with the forearm, I think, should be needs to be outlawed, and lots of the shoving. Sorry, for those of you who are listening to the podcast, you won't understand, you won't see what I'm doing, but basically shoving with your arms as you go into contact. I think those sort of things need to be made illegal, because I think you're catching defenders with those as well.
You might pick up a bit there, but I think a lot of concussions are actually happening. Your own teammates are hitting you. You know, Crotty was a good one today. Crotty was a head clash with his own teammate. I haven't actually seen the replay of the Whitelock one, so I haven't seen how he got concussed. But I see a lot of the concussions actually happening when you're making, in that defensive situation, as a defender, as a tackler, but from contact with your own teammate who's also in the tackle.
So, the one going high, one going low.
And the guy going low's copping it.
That's right, yes.
Don't you reckon, Paul, there must be some responsibility on the tackler too? I mean, it's your own body, it's your head, and you have a choice where you want to put it.
Yeah, tackle technique.
Yeah.
It is, and there was one tackle today where he where he got pinged for no arms, the prop, and the prop's was going, what did I do wrong? Like, mate, you practically laid down in front of him. You were looking away from the player when he made contact with you. Your head was in front of him. You put yourself in all sorts of danger there. And whether you should be penalised for not looking after yourself as much as no arms in the tackle in that situation.
Yeah, that used to be a Crotty issue, actually, is that his tackle technique, and I know that they worked on it, is the fact is that he used to put his head, instead of, it's hard to, I suppose, describe it, but I mean, like, he was putting his head in the front of the attacker instead of to the side and leading with the shoulder and arm, because you have to have the arm and now that you're penalised. But he was leading with the wrong shoulder, so his head ended up in front of the attacker, and it's just all wrong. And I think they worked on it for Crotty, and what you've alluded to, Paul, with I think it was the Chris Eves incident. This is like, again, a defender, poor technique and getting in the wrong body position to make the tackle and actually endangering himself.
Absolutely, and that's Lee Halfpenny's another one that's famous for that up in the Northern Hemisphere as the Welsh fullback. Yes, he stops the player, but at the same time he gets his head in the wrong place and gets himself concussed. And wearing whenever you see a fullback wearing a scrum cap, you've got to say this guy doesn't really understand how to look after his head properly. Cool. I think I've covered just about everything I wanted to. Actually, the one in here that did surprise me was actually Scott Barrett picking up, giving away 4 penalties. He was by far the most penalised, or not by far, but he was the most penalised player in the game. That's a trend he's going to have to be careful of if he wants to keep his All Black aspirations.
Oh, you know, the reality is that's part of the Crusaders game. It's just that Scott Barrett got picked up today 4 times, but part of their game is to get in there and slow the opposition ball down. And he got pinged today, which was unusual. And he would have been going, "Oh, what's wrong? I'm a Crusaders. I don't get pinged for penalties for blowing ball down."
Some proper Auckland bias coming
through. All teams try and slow the ball down. Let's be honest here. But to give away 4 penalties, I mean, someone like Eves, for example, giving away 3 penalties, you understand that. You give away penalties at scrum time. Props do generally get more penalised. But no one else gave away more than 2 penalties. He clearly didn't listen or didn't learn after the first couple as to what the umpire was, what the umpire. It's not. This isn't cricket. What the referee what pictures the referee was saying. As that seems to now be the terminology. The picture I'm seeing is this from referees, and the picture he was seeing of Barrett was all wrong, and he didn't. It took too long to adapt, for my mind.
Yeah, and then look, I'll now I'll take my Auckland bias hat off, and I'll say that I actually thought that the policing of the ruck and the new interpretation of the ruck laws was pretty loose today from the ref. I don't think he was consistent. It's basically, the tackler player gets down. As soon as one player's over the top, it's a ruck. And it's just like, oh, hang on, why are you letting those guys with the hands in there? Because there's the attacking player over his own player. It's a ruck. So what are you doing there? The only one I disagreed with was, well, actually, no, he got it right. And this was a sore point for me. And this is that, again, Jay Marshall on the commentary when TJ Perenara got the penalty, because for the Crusaders player not releasing, and Jay Marshall going, oh no, that's a harsh penalty because he's not holding his balance. Well, actually no, he's over the ball straight away. So if the ball was released, he wouldn't have gone onto one leg or lost his balance, etc. So the penalty was right. And my issue with the commentators with that is the fact is that there's a lot of people out there that don't understand the laws. And it's like you've got someone in the commentary team explaining the law wrong. Then you go away with a lot of people out there that then carry that on, thinking, "Oh, hang on, that's their interpretation of the law, and it's wrong."
I totally agree with you. I mean, it's even worse when you watch the Australian commentators.
Oh,
they're really not helping the referee. Get on, the ref! It's a contact sport. It's like a clear red card. No, not a red card, right?
Yep, you're talking about Higginbottom.
Yeah. I mean, it was, you cannot find a more clear red card than that.
Absolutely.
But there's, I think well, we're off on a tangent here, but the TV and the commentators, the TV stations are going, oh no, we're losing people from watching rugby because they're upset because they've come disenfranchised with it. Well, if you guys weren't slagging off rugby and the structure of it all the time, people wouldn't be quite so upset about it. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're going to slag off rugby as the media, and then people are less interested in it because you're slagging it off all the time, saying how bad it is, funnily enough, that's what's going to happen, which is why we need people like me and people like Rugby Roundup and all these other guys who talk about the positives of rugby, and enjoy the rugby rather than trying to slag off because the structure. Enjoy the game.
Yeah. Did you see this? It was like a perfect example. I was like really putting a cross on the roof when I heard it. It was after the England-Scotland game. And after we have a post show, we tried to show, but look at this, should really stop and have a penalties here. It was for one of the tries, it was Launchbury, who actually had his knee down in the ruck, but actually got up and got hit in the nagged. And still we tried to question it. Was your own gut got in the end today? Yeah, but come on, he's down there. How can you try to blame the referee?
Justify it.
Yeah, it's clearly the right call, and still we go on about it. And this happens all the time.
You're right. And it confuses the audience, and it confuses people, so then they don't understand the game.
Yeah. And it's all happening so quick. He gets one view of it. He doesn't get, the referee doesn't get 25 replays in slow-mo, and that's unfortunate. So yes, he is going to miss things, and that's fine.
Even when we get it right, they get hammered. That's what the real worry is. I mean, there are always going to be mistakes. There's always. I mean, is there any team sport that's harder to ref than rugby? I don't think so.
That's a good point.
Yep.
I don't think. I mean, I'm a proper soccer background and so on. And it's not in soccer. You still have players that much more obvious try to cheat, and do a lot of fluffing. But still, they get way more right in football. Way more right calls in football than in rugby. Maybe because the rules are much more simpler. But still.
Well, you don't also have you don't have a pile of bodies. And trying to figure out which arm is attached to which body and which leg is whose leg and who's doing what. So Yes, players. Maybe this is. I had wondered why we were always all players always wore short sleeves nowadays, and we don't see the long sleeve jerseys anymore. Maybe it's because it gives away what you're doing too easily, and so all the players have short sleeves, so he just sees skin, and he has to guess which player it is and whose arm is in there.
Come on, Paul. Everybody knows it's global warming.
Oh dear.
Look, I think we'll finish the points, but one thing I wanted to come back to was with the Hurricanes. I think, was it last year that they got smashed by the Brumbies in the first game? Was it the year before?
Yeah.
Yeah, but sort of like, so they have got that sort of building into it, into the season sort of thing. As our favourite Australian commentator, Mr. Kearns, smashing them, calling them fat and lazy, against the Brumbies. And I think actually it was the year before, because it was the year that they went and won the championship. Yeah. So
it's a good sign for Hurricanes when they lose the first game.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, there was also the comment at that point that how unfit and how fat all the I think Kern said all the Hurricanes were. And talking about that, talking about unfit players and injuries, there's been one player Arshan, you've been talking about all pre-season that you wanted to see, and you got to see him today, if only for about 10 minutes towards the end. Yeah,
I was hoping he would come on a bit earlier. I was hoping he'd come on about the 20-minute mark. The only concern I would have had is that being such a young hooker, you're just sort of wondering how's he going to go on that front row in the scrums. But yeah, really looking forward to it. But look,
we're talking about Amua for anyone who's not.
Amua.
Big favourite of mine. Big favourite.
Yeah, it's just like I was talking him up at the before the season started, when we were having these review shows and the like, or preview shows, I should say. I was talking up big time, and then they didn't take him to South Africa because he wasn't fit enough.
Did you see the picture?
No.
Moa released when they said it. I mean, it looked like he had a little bit too many burgers during the game. It did. I mean,
no, but look, when he came on today, it was a ball of energy, I thought, for that 10 minutes.
Yeah, but it's a tough task to come on against Crusaders.
Yeah, it's a tough ask to join, actually, to get up to the pace of the game in that amount of time as well is also a tough ask. But having watched Pacific Warriors, which is the documentary about the island teams and things, I think you'll find it's not so much burgers as fried chicken. Fried chicken is the
yeah, of course.
Careful, dangerous territories.
Please,
don't mention fried chicken.
do remember, you don't have to call the police when Kentucky Fried Chicken runs out of chicken. Okay, that's not an emergency.
But it's just normal in the UK.
So I'm thinking about Dave Chappelle, the comedian.
Yep.
A stand-up comedian called Dave Chappelle.
Yep.
He makes a really good sketch about black people's love of fried chicken.
He's allowed to.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. I think we may have diverged slightly away from the game, and perhaps I think we've probably covered everything we wanted to say. But generally, to sum it all up, the Hurricanes' backs were wonderful today. The forwards came out with a lot of aggressiveness early doors, and they got them over the game line in that first 26 minutes, which got them the lead that won them the game overall. The Crusaders didn't really play 10-man rugby, or maybe 11-man rugby, because they played with good hue as well. But the loss of Whitelock and Crotty early doors to head injuries was a big problem for them. Mattielli has been in his, yes, he did play well out on the wing. He was the exception out of all those players. But the Crusaders just dropped too many balls, as we saw by the number of scrums that the Hurricanes have, and their line-out didn't function tonight. And that's basically where the Crusaders then managed to win that game.
To summarise it, for me, in summary, good night for the Hurricanes. Obviously, they did enough to win the game. For the Crusaders, it's not a situation where they're going to hit the panic button. It's only one game, but there are going to be some concerns about the operation of their backline now without Moanga. Obviously, Mitchell Hunt is up there, but he doesn't have the experience. And when you've got sort of Bryn Hall and a Mitchell Drummond inside him, who aren't, grizzled old veteran halfbacks, there will be a little bit of concern there. And I wouldn't be too surprised to see Mike Delaney starting next week.
No, but coming up after this two next week, it's Crusaders play away against Highlanders. So
yep,
the Highlanders fans are.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like desperately unlucky all 3 times last year against Crusaders.
Yep.
Yeah, and someone's suggesting here that maybe Matulele is weak under the high ball. I don't know. If anything, next weekend against the Highlanders, he will definitely get tested by that. One of the Highlanders love a contested high ball to break up, to create some
go forward.
Not but also broken play, which is where they attack so well from. Cool. Thank you so much for joining me, Herman. This is obviously your first time, and we'll have you back. I think plenty of times again.
Thank you very much.
And I'm sorry, folks, but Herman isn't on Twitter. I know it's a kind of a bit of a strange thing. So he doesn't have a Twitter account to give you to talk to him outside of these. So you'll just have to wait until he's next on. And going to the other old man in the room, Ashwin, why don't you let people know whether you can people can get hold of you during the week?
On Twitter at NZFetso, and come and drop some comments in there, and I'll see you there.
And I've been Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, so at DrivingMaul on Twitter. Obviously, I would keep an eye on the comments below of the recording as well. And if you're listening to the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. Other stars are available, but why would you want to? I will be back again tomorrow after the France-England game at some very early hour in New Zealand, and I'll also be back for the Jaguares versus the Waratahs. So catch those live match reactions to those 2 games as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and watching us, and enjoy whatever rugby you're going to be watching.